Heart Attack and Vinyl, Chapter 3, Controlled Burn. Ash arrived early for the first day of band class, his brand-new snare drum resting in its pristine case. He carried it mindfully, sensing both the weight and the significance. He set the case on the floor beside his chair and sat. The latches remained closed. Ash waited, unsure of the rules, choosing patience over impulse. Around him, the band room sounded nothing like music yet, just random noise waiting for direction. Layers of chatter overlapped the thud of metal against metal. Clarinet keys snapped beneath fingers while nervous laughs tried to cover discomfort. Some looked down at their instruments as if already disappointed. Others were alert, eager, and ready. When Mr. Simon stepped through the door, the scattered noise trailed off, leaving only the click of the clock on the wall. "Hello, class," he said, his voice stern, not unkind. "My name is Mr. Simon. How many of you know how to play an instrument? Raise your hands." No hands went up. Some actually went into pockets. "Good," he continued, "because we are not going to play music today." The room stirred with murmurs and confused looks. Ash seemed surprised. "Today," he said, "we are going to learn how band works." "Instruments down." The command wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Hands lowered and mouthpieces dropped. Sticks froze midair before settling. "Rest position." "That means instruments in your laps. I want your back straight and your eyes forward." Chairs shifted, postures lifted. The room organized itself. Ash sat focused, his snare still in the case by his feet. He watched the teacher, not the drum. Mr. Simon scanned the class, making sure everything was quiet before proceeding. "Rule number 1, he said, tapping a pencil once against the metal music stand. "When I am speaking, instruments are down. If you are making noise while I am talking, you are not learning, and we are here to learn. Is that understood?" No one answered out loud. "Is that understood?" he repeated, clearer this time. "Yes, Mr. Simon," the students answered together, though not all at once. He began walking the rows, checking hardware and posture. "Cases flat on the floor," he directed. "Never on your lap, never on a chair. Sit up straight, please." 3 seats over, a distracted student tried to open her clarinet case upright. The latches popped. The velvet-lined joints spilled out in a scattered heap, the mouthpiece rolling toward the pencil sharpener. A small ripple of panic moved through the class. Mr. Simon stepped forward quickly. Not upset, just efficient. He crouched, carefully gathering each piece and set them back into their fitted slots. He closed the case himself. "Don't worry, you're not in trouble," he said, patting the student on the back. He returned his attention to the class. "This is why we keep our cases flat." The room adjusted. Students were seated in sections. Flutes together, clarinets united, brass in the back, percussion off to the side near a cabinet of extra pads and sticks. The band room smelled of oil and dry reeds, empty trapper keepers, and open lunchboxes. Flimsy best-in-class band books rested on the stands, their black covers a mosaic of silver and brass, creased from previous years. Mr. Simon turned to the chalkboard and wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 in big blocks. "As I said, we are not playing music today. First, we learn how to count. If we can't count together, we can't play together." He drew a straight line beneath the numbers and stepped back to face the class. "Everyone, clap with me." He started slow and deliberate. 1, 2, 3, 4. The class answered with hands colliding out of time, some ahead of the count, others dragging. "Again," he said. 1, 2, 3, 4. Their motions nearly aligned, gathering closer to a single beat. "That's better," he said, walking toward the percussion section. "Sticks up." They lifted them quickly. "Matched grip," he said, adjusting a boy's fingers. "Matched grip means both hands should hold the sticks the same way. Thumb here, not there. You're not holding a shovel." A few kids laughed but tried to hide it. He paused in front of Ash, studying his hands. "Correct." Mr. Simon grabbed a pair of fresh drumsticks from the cabinet and began demonstrating quarter notes on a practice pad. Controlled, nothing flashy. "Watch me closely. Hit only the center of the pad. Do not hit the rims. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone, he said. The percussion answered too fast. He raised his hand, stopping them mid-beat. Pay attention. He slowed the motion of the drumstick until the pulse felt almost exaggerated. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try again. This time they matched, not perfect, but together. That, he said, is a pulse. The pulse is the steady beat everything else is built on. He moved to the brass section. I want you to use only the mouthpiece. No instruments yet, he said before demonstrating embouchure. Firm but not tight. Start with the buzz. Let the air stay steady. Don't force it. They tried, producing more air than sound. That's okay, Mr. Simon said evenly. Patience. Suddenly, a flute player drove a blast of air across the head joint. A thin, loud squeak sliced through student ears. Several of them jumped. Mr. Simon winced, slightly theatrical, not cruel. Air is not something you throw. It's something you shape. He demonstrated again. Slow inhale, controlled release, he advised. Their second attempt created a thin but stable tone. There it is, he said softly. He let them try once more, then lifted his hand. Rest position. The room obeyed more quickly this time. You will all sound bad for a while, he said plainly. That is normal. You are beginners. Beginners sound like beginners. A few shoulders loosened. But if you listen, and if you watch, and if you practice correctly, you won't stay beginners for long. Mr. Simon returned to the chalkboard. Beneath the numbers, he drew a wide box and wrote one word inside. Routine. Your homework this week is not learning to play a song. It's learning a routine, he said. It is 10 minutes a day, no more, no less. He held up a hand, fingers spread wide. The first 5 minutes are assembly. You will sit on the floor. You will open your case flat. You will put the instrument together piece by piece and then take it apart. Slow and careful. If you rush, you break it. If you break it, you can't play. He put his hand down, showing the other. The next 5 minutes are spent practicing the pulse. To be a good musician, you have to learn timing. Your goal is not to make sound. Your goal is to be steady. Brass, just the mouthpiece. Flutes, head joint only. Clarinets, mouthpiece and barrel. Percussion, center of the pad, quarter notes only. Mr. Simon paused, his eyes studying the room. I do not want to hear that you practiced for 2 hours on Saturday. 2 hours of bad practice just makes you better at being bad. A few students smiled, some giggled under their breath. 10 minutes, every day. That is how noise becomes control, he said, tapping the best-in-class book on the nearest stand. Read pages 2 and 3. Learn the parts of your instrument. Next week, we assemble them. If you haven't practiced opening your case, you'll be the one dropping pieces on the floor. He let that sit, not threatening, just factual. Mr. Simon looked over the room one more time. Instruments down. The bell rang, chairs scraped. Cases closed flat this time. Students left in uneven lines. Ash stayed seated a moment longer, his sticks resting lightly against the practice pad. His new snare remained sealed in its case. A small part of him wanted to open it just to see what it looked like in class, but the feeling passed. There was too much to learn, too much to watch. He replayed the lesson in his head, the order of things, the discipline behind them, and the pulse they shared. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the hallway, noise swallowed him again. But inside room 27, sound was beginning to take shape, not into music yet, not even confidence. Structure. As the school year passed, the band room changed. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a little. Noise began shifting into something more like sound. The first few months of rehearsals were uneven and painful. The sound was thin and brittle. Notes split and mouthpieces squealed. Drumsticks bounced where they shouldn't. Mr. Simon had to stop them often. Sometimes they held for a few measures, sometimes only a couple. Mostly, the count faltered and fell apart. But everyone kept trying. By October, cases opened flat without a reminder, and assembly grew quieter. The beat began to align more often than not. Mr. Simon no longer had to interrupt every 8 bars. He let them move through mistakes before shaping them. The pulse still wandered, but it wandered together. As November ended, something steadier lived in the room. It was still rough and young, but it was disciplined. Trumpets buzzed longer before the air collapsed, and flutes found the tone more quickly. Drums stopped rushing. Their rhythm tightened with every passing week. The room no longer felt like separate students stacked beside each other. It sounded like one entity learning to breathe. Ash rarely looked down at his hands now. He watched the conductor. When Mr. Simon said, "Take it from measure 9, Ash was already there. When the section stumbled, he did not. The sound was not yet beautiful, but it was together. Mr. Simon wasn't fixing chaos anymore. He was refining details. The structure held both in class and at home. In the garage, there were fewer distractions. Only Ash and his snare, surrounded by concrete and dust. 3 dim light bulbs dangled overhead, while an old generator groaned constantly in the corner. The air was ripe with Valvoline, wet cardboard, and determination. The first months of practice left Ash with tender hands and aching wrists, but he was persistent. He rehearsed for 10 minutes every day. He played quarter notes relentlessly, drumsticks rising and falling in steady arcs. His parents would check on him every so often, bringing snacks and Kool-Aid, noticing his progress. They never asked him to stop. By December, his hands were moving without tension or discomfort. The motion felt less like effort and more like alignment. He played precise and confident, careful not to let the sound grow too big, mindful of the thin line that separates noise from sound. Loud was not the objective, consistency was the target. He chose pulse over volume, and was well on his way to perfecting it. After winter break, some of the students had regressed, but the beat was still there. Brass cracked, woodwinds squeaked, and the tempo drifted. Ash stayed steady. Months of structure seemed forgotten on their first day back, only to be remembered the following week. One day, Mr. Simon let them play longer than usual before interrupting. He moved quietly toward percussion, noticing the inconsistencies. He raised his hand. "Again," he said. Everyone except Ash was slightly out of sync. His pulse did not waver. Mr. Simon watched his hands, then his eyes. "Instruments down." "You practice every day," he said, looking at Ash. "Yes, sir." "How long?" 10 minutes, Ash replied. Mr. Simon nodded, studying him a moment. He saw something distinct, something natural, a quality absent in the others. He marched to the front of the room without saying a word. Standing near the chalkboard, he spoke to the class. "I want everyone to begin practicing 20 minutes a day," he announced. 5 for assembly and 15 for the pulse. We have a recital coming up in April, and I want everyone to be ready. Some students moaned, others were delighted. Ash couldn't wait. News of the upcoming recital resonated in the room. It straightened backs. It tightened rhythm. It turned practice from routine into preparation. Mr. Simon began using class time more efficiently. Sections stayed after the bell to run difficult measures again. He made sure the percussion no longer rushed the downbeat, and the woodwinds were tuned twice instead of once. April loomed on the calendar, a locked door with light seeping through the seams. Ash thrived inside it. The added 10 minutes did not exhaust him. It steadied him. The snare drum responded the way it was supposed to. Rudiments felt clean. The double-stroke roll no longer tangled at tempo. He knew he had more to learn, much more, but something in him pressed forward anyway. Not boredom, not dissatisfaction, expansion. 3 days after the announcement, Ash returned to the bandroom after school. Mr. Simon was at his desk, marking incorrect answers with red ink. "Excuse me, sir." The pen paused but did not lift. "What can I do for you, Ash?" "I was wondering," he said hesitantly. "Can I play 2 instruments?" Mr. Simon finished writing before answering. "You've only been on that snare since September," he said. "You might have the fundamentals down, but band isn't like the cafeteria, where you can take whatever you want. You start with an instrument, and you finish the year with it. That's how we build an ensemble. If every drummer picked up a different instrument the moment he got curious, we wouldn't have a rhythm section, would we? No, sir. Slow down, please, Mr. Simon concluded. Ash nodded. He knew the answer was reasonable. He also knew the feeling in his chest still burned. The following week, Ash visited him again. If I proved I was ready, he said carefully, would you let me learn another instrument? Mr. Simon leaned back in his chair. You think you're ready for more? His tone was not mocking, it was measuring. Play the double-stroke roll, then the 16th note study on page 12. Perfectly. No dragging, no pushing. I hope you understand that a second instrument means double the practice. I don't want to see your grades slip or your drumming suffer because you're messing around with valves or reeds. Yes, sir. Ash lifted his sticks. The roll landed clean, even, controlled. The 16th note study followed without hesitation. No flare, no rushing, just steady. Mr. Simon watched his hands the entire time. When Ash finished, the room felt quiet in a different way. All right, Mr. Simon said. Ash felt the hope rise in his chest before he could stop it. Before I give you the green light, Mr. Simon continued, keep in mind that your parents will have to buy or rent the second instrument. Decent gear is not cheap. Are you sure they would be okay with that? The air shifted. Ash looked at the floor. My dad worked overtime for the snare, he said. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked. He kept his voice low and level, but the gravity disturbed him. His spirits had risen just high enough to be seen, only to slip beneath the surface. Mr. Simon watched him closely. The disappointment was evident, small, controlled, but heavy. Ash was a student who practiced every day, who never rushed, who had just passed the test he'd been given with undeniable skill. I will make a deal with you, Mr. Simon said, closing the grade book. I've got a closet at home full of old, unused instruments that I've collected over the years. They aren't pretty, but they play. There's a Bundy trumpet, a Vito clarinet, and an alto saxophone that's seen better days. You can choose one if you promise to take care of it. Ash looked up, his eyebrows lifted. Seriously, Mr. Simon added, this is not charity. You have to care for the instrument properly. Ash didn't hesitate. I will, I promise. Which one do you want? The sax, he said immediately. I want to play the saxophone, please, sir. Mr. Simon gave a dry half-smile. Fastest decision you've made all year. Fine, the sax. Listen, this is a quiet arrangement. As far as the school is concerned, your folks found an old horn at a yard sale. Understood. Yes, sir. What do I tell my parents? Mr. Simon nodded. You tell them the truth. The next day, before the rest of the class arrived, Mr. Simon carried in an old, black, rectangular case with frayed edges. The latches snapped open with a heavy click. Ash leaned in. Inside lay the alto saxophone, lacquer worn thin along the curves, keys slightly dull but still solid. It was far from flashy, but Ash didn't care. He felt the anticipation in his bones. He imagined the music of John Coltrane and how it must feel to master the sound. But the moment was brief. Mr. Simon closed the lid, breaking the spell as he signaled for Ash to lift the case. They moved the snare and the sax to the crowded storage room, affectionately called the cage. It smelled like floor wax and old wood. Tubas rested in oversized lockers. Baritones leaned in the shadows. A single source of light illuminated the space from above. They placed the snare inside one of the lockers and shut the metal door. From his pocket, Mr. Simon retrieved a heavy silver-faced master lock and set it down with a clunk. This is yours, he said. I do not want to see either of those instruments in an open locker. Keep it locked or I take it back. He tore a strip of masking tape and wrote 3 numbers on it. 369. He stuck the tape to the back of the lock. That's the combination. Right to 3. Full turn left past 3 to 6, then right to 9. If you can't handle the lock, you can't handle the saxophone. Ash turned the dial carefully. Right to 3, left past 3 to 6, right to 9. The shackle sprang open. Mr. Simon nodded once. Don't tell anyone, he said. Not even your best friend. If I open that locker and find somebody's lunch inside, the deal is over." "Yes, sir." The bell rang down the hall, and room 27 vibrated with racket as students found their way inside. Ash was seated, the saxophone already in his lap. Mr. Simon tapped his baton on the stand. "Listen up. Ash is pulling double duty for a while. His parents got him an alto sax, so he'll split time between percussion and woodwinds. Don't ask him to swap. He has enough work as it is. Saxophones make room." A few students stared, a few shrugged. Rehearsal began. The first note Ash produced was not music. It was a foghorn. The reed tasted woody and bitter as he soaked it between his lips. The mouthpiece felt foreign compared to the clean snap of a drumstick. His embouchure wavered. The tone wobbled and thinned, but he showed potential. By the end of class, his lower lip felt numb and fuzzy, like he had just left the dentist. He adjusted the reed, wiped it dry, and slid it into the guard exactly as shown. After dismissal, Mr. Simon stopped him once more. "If someone asks where you got it," he said quietly, "you say yard sale, no store names, and stay out of the storage room unless you're switching instruments. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir." "And don't forget to take the reed off every time. If you leave it on, it will grow mold faster than bread in a basement." "I won't." He locked the saxophone inside the cage. Right to 3, left to 6, right to 9. Ash left school with only the snare in his hand and the combination on his mind. He felt heavier, not burdened. Entrusted,